there's just a lot and too much going on right now all over the world with unrest in the Middle East, and who knows which country is going to get pulled into this next. We have the next edition of the Epstein files dropping, and this one, as breaking news, as far as that goes, is explosive. Now, I have to add, this is all allegations at this stage, and it's just coming out in the network. So in the minutes and hours and days to come, I'm sure by later on today, we'll have some more of the networks covering this story, and there'll be more clarity and be able to tune in on it a little bit more succinctly. For now, yes, just see how it's being covered by at least one of the US networks, TYT. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Mentioned the latest batch of Epstein files contain passages so damaging to President Donald Trump that his Department of Justice came out to call them fake news. And we'll get into some of these really horrific details. But what do you make, Cenk, before we get into that, of this spin attempt by the DOJ to try to dissuade people from giving any of these files any weight?
Yeah, there's one letter in there that I'm pretty much positive is fake. And so we'll share that with you guys too. And so I'm worried that that's going to discredit the rest. No, make a decision on each individual piece of evidence by itself. The other parts are very damning. So let's analyze it one by one and see what's real and what isn't.
Sure. First, a warning to the viewer. Some of the material we're going to cover is very graphic and very disturbing. This morning, like we said, the DOJ released almost 30,000 new Epstein files. The department also issued a statement that read, "Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they had any shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for Epstein's victims." Now let's dive into those untrue and sensationalist claims as they describe them. We'll start with a letter that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly wrote to Larry Nassar. And if you aren't familiar or don't remember Larry Nassar, he's the former team doctor of the U.S. women's national gymnastics team. He was charged with sexually abusing over 250 young women and girls. Epstein seemingly wrote the letter when he was in jail in 2019. It reads, in part, "As you know by now, I have taken the short route home. Good luck. We shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies at the hope they'd reach their full potential. Our president shares our love of young, nubile girls. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system." The Department of Justice has disputed the authenticity of that letter, posting on Twitter today. The Department of Justice is currently looking into the validity of this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar, and we will follow up as soon as possible. In the meantime, 3 facts stand out. The postmark on the envelope is Virginia, not New York, where Jeffrey Epstein was jailed at the time. The return address listed the wrong jail where Epstein was held and did not include his inmate number, which is required for outgoing mail. The envelope was processed 3 days after Epstein's death. Later today, the DOJ announced they had officially determined the letter was fake. For what it's worth, others like Dropsite News' Ryan Grimm have reached the same opinion. Here's another excerpt from the Epstein files. It has to do with a tipster who shared a chilling story about Trump. The details came from an FBI document which is dated October 2020. It is difficult to decipher because it is heavily redacted, but from what we can gather, in 1999, the tipster was telling a woman about his experience meeting Donald Trump as a limo driver. In response to that story, the woman told the tipster that Trump raped her. Here are some excerpts from that FBI document. During Redacted's time as a driver, he had met Donald Trump. Redacted noted he picked up the president in 1995 and took him to the DFW airport. Redacted noted Trump continuously stated the name Jeffrey while on the phone and made references to abusing some girl. Now, this part is harder to parse because both the tipster and the woman's name are redacted. As Redacted talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, Redacted immediately, Redacted demeanor went stone cold as Redacted stated, "He raped me." Redacted said, "What?" As Redacted replied, "Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein." Redacted noted some girl with a funny name took me into a fancy hotel or building. That's how it happened. Redacted advised to call the police regarding the incident as Redacted stated, "I can't. They will kill me." One day later, the woman told the tipster that she changed her mind and told the police about what happened to her. Sometime later, the tipster found out that that woman was dead and her death was ruled a suicide. Redacted reached out to Redacted, stating was dead, and noted she was found with her head, quote, blown off in Kiefer, Oklahoma. Officers on the scene and Redacted stated there was no way it was a suicide. Coroner stated it was a suicide. Redacted feels the murder is cover for Ghislaine. And we've got a lot more, but Cenk, I want to bring you in here. Both of these might seem fishy, especially the former, but what do you make of both of these?
Yeah, no, I have very different opinions on those two things. So the first letter, the minute I read it, I thought this is BS. So, and in fact, I don't want that letter disregarded. I want it tracked because whoever sent that letter, it might be a rando, right? Or it might be someone who actually did the killing of Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because there's a million things wrong with that letter. First of all, nothing's misspelled. Jeffrey Epstein couldn't spell if his life depended on it, okay? And so that's just like tiny little clue number one. Number two, really, Epstein, one of the worst child abusers, is talking to Larry Nassar, the other super terrible child abuser, and they say, but Trump is worse than us. Man, that is awfully convenient, right? And then the third thing on top of that is, I am going to take the shortcut home, as you will soon find out. I am committing suicide. It is definitely suicide. Is it, brother? Is it? So that's what I was thinking even before we found out, it was mailed 3 days after he died or processed at least 3 days after he died. And from the wrong place to the wrong place, et cetera, et cetera. So it has at least a 99% chance of being fake. But who faked it and why did they insist? Remember, I'm taking the shortcut home, meaning suicide. It felt a little like Tyler Robinson's Engraved Bullets. Remember, I am doing this because I am a leftist and I do not like those fascist right-wingers. Yeah, maybe. And remember, it was just me and no one else. He writes that in all the text. Maybe, okay. But that letter is fake 8 ways to Sunday, all right? So number two, now you get to the rape charges and the lady who lost her life. Well, look, I have no reason to believe that's fake, and I have no reason to believe it's real. I have a reason to believe it's real. It's in the files, right? On the other hand, so is a fake letter. So I'm at I don't know, but here's what I do know. Should that be investigated? Of course. Was it already investigated? Some of the stuff goes back to 1995. If it wasn't investigated, then I become 10,000 times more curious. If there's a witness saying this lady was raped by two powerful people, it doesn't matter what their names are. Could have been Bill Clinton and Larry Summers. I don't care, right? But two very powerful and wealthy people raped this girl, and then all of a sudden she blows her head off after she was worried they were going to kill her. Brother, you better look into that in a big, big way before you dismiss it as, I bet that's crazy, nothing to see. Is it true that the local cops thought there's no way it's a suicide? I mean, look, a lot of the Epstein victims wound up committing suicide, including Epstein, right? Giuffre, they say Virginia Giuffre committed suicide. Yeah, I know. She said she was depressed, et cetera, but that's also usually a good cover story. So look, if it's not investigated thoroughly, then I turn around and go, that's super weird. Why wouldn't you investigate that no matter who was involved? So no, that one we have no reason to believe is fake. I certainly wouldn't just trust it on its face alone. Both of them require significant investigation, But the fact that if the second one was not adequately investigated, that would be another red flag.
Yeah, I'm with you on the first one. I would need to be proven otherwise, but until then, I'm just going to assume that someone who tried to send in a fake letter. Again, I don't want to credit the DOJ or anything like that, but the timing on some of these are very suspicious. It's all right in the run up to the election. It's a mess. If you look at some of the early files that were released, they're taking from everything. It wasn't just stuff that they gathered through their own intelligence gathering or their own investigation. It was just catch-all, anything that could possibly relate. That's why you had an entire page-by-page scan of someone's book in the first batch of documents. So this, I think, for the most part, that letter is just somebody being a crank. Maybe not, but I would need to see evidence otherwise that also addresses like the really suspicious flags about the date, where it was postmarked, that kind of stuff. Yeah. On the other one, maybe there will be an investigation, certainly not by the DOJ, but even like local reporters in Kiefer, Oklahoma can look up and see if there was a suicide around that time. And you could find in the police records, if there was something like that, that would validate that major point in that story. So I would hope that the Oklahoman or local affiliates around there would take a look at that. But until then, I would just need more evidence. But we've got more that they have released, and we'll end with an email from 2020. We don't know who sent or received that email, but both have been redacted. All we know is that whoever sent the email was serving as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. Here's what they wrote. Wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. He is listed as having traveled with, among others, and at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 1993, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old redacted. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. Cenk, this one to me has a lot more weight and is way more damning from Trump. What do you think?
Yeah. So, look, to me, did Epstein and Trump party together? Well, that's not in question. They definitely did. Did they have relationships with women in questionable ways, which I'll explain in a minute? Of course they did, right? So was it with underage girls? I don't know. We know with Epstein, we don't know with Trump. So that brings us back to the same place. It's possible that you go on that plane and you don't go to what they're calling Rape Island, right? It's possible you go to different places. Lots of powerful people and connected people knew Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't all do it. Okay, now, having said that, he said he wasn't on the plane, and now it turns out very likely he was on the plane many, many times. So that's another big red flag, right? So there are other things in the documents. So there's a mysterious subpoena of Mar-a-Lago and who's working for them at a time when the poaching from Mar-a-Lago might have happened by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So why is that stuff redacted? What was the subpoena about? And then you connect it to the other development that's from today, where there was a witness who said that there was a woman named Ghislaine Lisa Villeneuve. I don't know if that's a name that Ghislaine used otherwise, saying that that they were going to go to a party at Mar-a-Lago, and Ghislaine told them, "Don't. That party is just for prostitutes." So did they have parties with basically prostitutes coming in to service the older, wealthier men? Hard to know, but on the other hand, that one seems super real. Like if you think that doesn't happen with wealthier dudes, I my experience in covering the news tells me that it does. So, guys, I wish we could tell you we know definitively on any of this stuff, but they redact so much of it. And there's some stuff in there that's just total bogeys, and it makes you wonder about the rest. So that's why it's hard to reach definitive conclusions on any of these. But I brought that up in the context of the jet, because if you told me Trump and Epstein are flying around and having sex with youngish, like 20-year-old, but adults, right? Prostitutes throughout the country, the world, etc., I'd believe that in a flat second. In fact, I'd be really surprised if it didn't happen. Okay. So, and here's some evidence that it did happen. You do that with that what you will. Jordan, do you reach any conclusions from this?
So let me know what you think of this. Is it as shocking as it seems to me and it may seem to others? Is this going to be verified, or are they just allegations that are going to be knocked out of the pond in any, soon to be seen update? Let us know in the comments. Before we go, I'd just like to have a quick moment for our video sponsors, who are smalldebts.co.uk. If you find yourself in any kind of difficulty, financial activities online, you need money repatriated to your account, you've been scammed, you've been taken for a ride, or somebody just owes you something like a rent deposit, Small Debts can have your corner when you reach that point that it's just too much for you to deal with yourself. And they can also take care of other issues if you have a small business and you need assistance with some of the administrative tasks like payroll or email campaigns. Look them up, check them out. Information will be in the description.
Struggling to get your security deposit back or dealing with unfair charges? At Small Debts, our tenant advocate service fights to get your money back. No stress, no hassle. Take control today. Visit smalldebts.co.uk and start your case now.
So don't forget to hit the bell icon, leave your opinions and your views in the comment section. Be part of the CornerSpeak community. And for now, you've been here with myself, Onuyade at CornerSpeak. As I like to say, as I end these shows, be good, be safe, be creative. And yes, watch this spot, see how this story develops and the other stories going around the world. Be good, be safe, be creative. I'm out.